Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all around the world, welcome to a little beer talk sesh with Mr. Elon Ferdman playing on the ones and twos in the Google Hangout, and Mr. Guy Ferdman. I think I got the twos, maybe you do the ones. I'm not really sure what the fuck I'm talking about. But, we're doing this live. We invited a whole bunch of people to come watch it. Those of you who are watching live, welcome, welcome. Those of you who are coming in, you didn't get the welcome. I'm sorry. But let's start our traditional beer talk without being traditional at all. Let's show them what you're drinking there.
So I got something a little special because it's been a pretty amazing week. I don't know if you can see that. This is called Thirsty Dog Wolver. I just want to read you some stuff on here because this is crazy. Wee Heavy Ale, aged in bourbon barrels, 11 months this thing is aged. Ooh. It's some crazy stout. This little 12-ounce bottle is in fact $7. So for those of you that think that's crazy, you're probably right. And I busted out the chalice.
Ooh, the goblet.
The goblet, which I usually just preserve for my big brews, but I said fuck it.
And that's when you know that you've met a beer snob.
Let's get crazy. So while you're talking, I will just do this.
Nice. And what I've done is made a complete mockery of our whole system here by once again ruthlessly drinking all my beer prior to beer talk and not having any for this because we didn't put on the schedule. We're just doing it. So I went upstairs to the fridge, and the only beer I could find was my housemate's boyfriend's shitty Mexican beer. That I'm sure tastes like piss and looks like piss. So I decided not to do that by putting horrible empty calories into my body, which I won't even enjoy. So instead, beer talk today will turn into a whiskey bourbon talk, and at least this I get to enjoy. So with that said, cheers to you and cheers to you watching or who will watch. And because now we've wasted 2 minutes talking about beer and bourbon before we.
It's a beer talk.
It is
God
a beer talk.
Damn, that is a serious beer. Wow. Woo! That lights
I was going to give an example of how big of a beer snob you are just by saying the word Budweiser and watching the reaction on your face.
This thing's 12% alcohol. By the end of this thing, I might be like falling off my chair.
that'll make it entertaining for all involved.
All right, so let's jump right in. So
let's get to content.
Yeah. I actually chose this beer for a very particular reason. We kind of impromptu'd this thing. Guy and I have been on a whole bunch of podcasts recently, so you're going to see probably a whole bunch of SatoriPrime in a lot of different avenues that you never saw us before. And I decided to do kind of like a celebration. I think that's why I picked this really special beer, which is we've had an incredible month so far, and it's only, what, June 16th, right?
17th.
Say 16th or 17th?
17th today.
17th, okay. So in 5 days' time, this Sunday, I believe it is, SatoriPrime will turn 3 officially. And Guy and I were talking earlier, we've actually doubled our income from our previous month this month, and we're just halfway through, basically, the month. So this is kind of like a celebratory beer, and I figured, you know, we're in such a groove, and people have been asking us such great questions. I thought, hey, you know, why not do this ourselves and kind of have this question? So, bro, we've obviously, as we were talking before, I think hit like another gear, which happens, you know, I feel like you go up and up, you plateau, and then you kind of like find that next gear. I think we've definitely found it. What would you say are, you know, 1 or 2 things that you attribute to our success in the month of June?
Yeah, the 3 years before that is what I attribute to the month of June. I mean, honestly, a lot of experience. You know, we talk a lot about the dance, right? You know, learning to dance, what that experience is like, learning a new language, what that experience is like, the thought patterns that change from one of, sorry about the light, guys, it's just sunny in this direction right now. You know, that experience of having to overthink things in the beginning and then watching the thought pattern move into more of an emotional space where you just have an instinct about things. And I think we've gotten to a point in our business, not just as brothers, but as business partners, and our roles in the business, and how we each have instincts about our roles in the business, where things that used to have to be talked about and said and communicated about are now, it's in the dance. Like, we're in the dance. Like, I know it's, brothers, it's incestual and it's gay in this situation, but if Elon and I were dancing, if we were dance partners, it's at a point where it's like we both know when to let the other person lead without having to have these like big discussions. And so when we take on a project or we're working on something, our roles are so clearly defined at this point in time that it's like just split up and go. And we've gotten so good at taking action. We've gotten so look at the cat. We've gotten so good at just. I don't know. It's really tough to put a finger on. All I know is that I have instincts today that I didn't have a year ago. I have instincts today that I didn't have 6 months ago. And we run a lot of masterminds with people, no matter what we teach, because I could teach processes, I could teach information, I'm really good at giving people experiences. But there's something to be said about the time, the length of period of time in which you get to experience something, and how that integrates into your, I don't know, I'm looking for the word all the time. I keep on saying nervous system. What's like your emotional feedback system? Is that part of your nervous system?
Yeah, I think so.
It is, right? So it's like an integration into the nervous system. So it's like you take information and it like rewires into the nervous system, and suddenly information becomes a feeling, and you just have a feeling about what to do. And that's what great marketers, I think, do. I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but I remember when we went to J-Buds 2 years ago when we won that contest. And I remember Hoverson sitting across the seat and giving him acknowledgement about the fact that he could like just give you an idea of what the numbers were. Like he would be like, oh, today we're going to hit this number, and that's the revenue we're going to have. And he's like, it's so amazing that he's got that skill. But I was sitting there, I'm like, he's just built instinct. He's got such an instinct for launching a product because he's done it so many times that he's just excellent at doing that. And so that's kind of what I would, attribute to that, I suppose.
I mean, we had this conversation a little bit, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago or maybe a week ago, and I was saying to Guy that honestly, for the first time, there's a big shift in December. I think we spoke about it in another beer talk or another video about joining a mastermind and being able to make a profound difference for 7, 8, 9-figure earners, and then kind of carrying that momentum into our belief system, which gave us better actions, etc. But I also said to you recently, and it kind of shocked you a little bit, that I think this is the first time I've ever been obsessed with our business. Which sounds kind of odd to, I think most people would be like, are you kidding me? You're so passionate in all your videos, etc. But, when I joined forces with Guy was probably 6 months down the road, and for those that know him, he's like I've said to everyone we've met, I said there's very few people in this world of marketing that are as technically savvy as Guy. He just sees the world like a matrix. It's unreal what he's able to do. And so I kind of always felt for the first time like I was in his shadow, like it was his company, and I was just kind of like trying to find a place of my own within it to help the company. We had a few pretty tough conversations early on.
Sure.
And I feel like for the first time, we've always had this dance and this groove, but like I found my pocket in our business, and I found the thing that I think I'm as good, at least very, like in the upper echelon of other people in this industry of what I do. As a communicator and, creating content, being on the phone with people, etc., which is what I've always loved, and it's always what came naturally to me. But my level of experience, and Guy always says, is like, every time I go away on vacation, you have to take that part of the business, and like I have to focus on doing more technical stuff, which obviously helps me with my skill set, quote unquote. But I have to say, like, being obsessed with your business, passionately obsessed with your business, I could honestly say is the biggest difference maker. If you spend an hour in your business or 4 hours in your business and it feels like 5 minutes, then you know you're on the right track. And I mean that in anything in life, whether you're a painter, a musician, whatever. You know those times when you totally get lost. If, on the other hand, you spend 5 minutes and it seems like an eternity to you, chances are you're not doing the thing that lights you up. So maybe just take a look at your own life and kind of gauge, like, are you waking up in the mornings hating your life? Are you living for weekends? Guy wrote a great book a while back called Living for Mondays. And you know what? I got to say, like, I really don't work on the weekends. I really try to check out and have that family time. But Sunday night, I'm like so anxiously excited for Monday morning to come because I know I get to play.
And seriously, what a gift. I mean, I remember the first time I had that experience where Monday wasn't something I dreaded. Like, Sunday ending wasn't a bad thing anymore. There was no alarm clock to wake up to the next day. Like, all that kind of stuff, I immediately thought to myself, I'm like, wow, what a gift I've given myself. And I've said this before, you know, no alarm clock. You make this decision to join this kind of opportunity to learn this skill set, to work from home, to work for yourself. I mean, the moment you don't have an alarm clock anymore, the moment you don't have a boss to talk to anymore, you get to take off time when you want. You're already 99% of the way towards retirement, right? Most people look at retirement like a financial goal. It's not. It's a freedom goal. It's just, how do you define freedom? Most people define it as a number figure. I would say that's, I'm not saying it's not part of it. Money's always important, right? Because in the game that we play, that we call life, and whatever this, you know, BS that we're doing out here is, and it's fun, I guess, in its own right, but people give so much significance to it that it becomes all they're concerned with, when there's so many other beautiful things to get yourself concerned with. Increase, you know, your knowledge base, increase what you're doing in that area of life, and you'll see that the money isn't what causes the enjoyment. The money is a measure of something, right? Just like time is a measure of something. And you want to be able to measure, so we measure how many people we're impacting by the amount of money that's being made, because the value that we give is the money that we're able to earn. So there's a direct correlation between the two, but our primary focus, especially over this last year, has really moved from let's take care of ourselves to let's take care of everybody else. And just keep doing that and keep being those people, which is what we've naturally been really good at. I just think it's like everybody else, you start a business and it starts in a scarcity mentality, and you do everything you can to push yourself out of that mentality so that you can see the world of abundance that's out there, that money is really not this difficult thing to ascertain. In the 9-to-5 game, it's difficult to ascertain. In this world where those rules don't apply anymore, it's not. Your only limitation is on what you personally believe you can accomplish. And that's, I think, something I really want to talk about, because that's what's been going on for us since the beginning of the year, is like because of who we spend time with, and I want you to talk about it, because of who we've surrounded ourselves by, which, again, we've talked about so many times, surround yourself with that which you want to become. We've started even looking at ourselves as different, because we see the value that we're bringing to people who are like, people we would hold up here and say, wow, you are so successful. What the hell am I doing in the same room as you? And we could still provide value for that human being, immense value for that human being. Completely changes your perspective.
Yeah, I just want to read this this quote, because we did an interview today with Ryan Moran, different than Brian Moran, Ryan Moran, legendary guy. I mean, really, really amazing guy. And I just want to read you what he wrote to us after we finished the podcast with him. And I just want to use this as a segue to kind of transition to what we're kind of shifting our business to. He said, "Gentlemen, that was the most hard-hitting podcast I've ever recorded." Just so you guys know, he's been doing the podcast for almost about 3 years. "Whatever you're selling, I want it. I want to book a consultation with you to identify some blocks in my own life. I'm at a major tipping point, and my fears have been yelling loudly the last couple of weeks. Thank you for such a fun hour, and I can't wait to do it again. Ryan." Now, I said to Guy afterwards that I'd met Ryan, we've spoken before, and like he's one of these really kind of pragmatic guys. Like, he really asks a lot of questions. He doesn't take anything for face value. He's really a good thinker. And I told Guy to hear that kind of compliment from him is a big, big compliment. And Guy said right away, as soon as we got off, he goes, I don't think we know the genius that we possess, but it takes these kind of interactions to actually show it to us. And I just want to kind of segue, not to kind of toot our own horn, but we got into this industry wanting to be life coaches for people, right? Like, initially we were looking for marketing to be like, okay, how can we help change people's lives? We never thought in a million years, if you told us that we would launch a Facebook product for $37 with Mark Hoverson, I don't care how much you would have told me, like, I wouldn't have believed you because I was like, what the fuck are we about Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Lo and behold, here we are, as Guy said today, you know, in the elite class of the Facebook minds of the world right now. SatoriPrime is definitely up there. So with all that, what we found has been the most impactful of our lessons has always been the mindset stuff. It almost doesn't matter what we're talking about. The things that get the most juice, the things that we get the most feedback on have always been these kind of conversations where we're talking about mindset and shifting people's perspective. And it's the first time that we're about to launch a product focused solely on personal development. We've never led with personal development. It's always kind of been in the background. So, Guy, I just want you to share with people a little bit, like, what are you seeing shifting in us, in yourself, in our business, that we're now able to come out there and say, you know what, we're going to do this?
Yeah. I want to rewind it just a second before I answer that question. I definitely want to answer that question, so hold it there, and I might ask you what the question was again, because I have a memory of an ant these days. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, you said before that we're like recognizing our genius, right? And again, it's none of this stuff is in a egotistical kind of way. I really don't want it to come out that way. I'm saying it in the most humble way possible. It's one of those things when I was younger I wouldn't have said about myself because it sounds boastful, but today I'm like, it gives me juice. You know, there's a belief behind it that I wasn't there. So, you know, genius, take that word however you want to take it. I don't mean like we're in Albert Einstein's by any stretch of the imagination. But
Albert Einstein, I have a glass of beer in front of me that's as big as my face.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure Albert would have been into it, actually. But my point about that is you said that it's taking us to be around great people to recognize our genius. Almost like they're touching us and letting us know, like, yep, you got that too, right? And I remember coaching people, and I remember early on in my coaching career what I would do is, I mean, I was depressed and suicidal and all these things, so I would look for people in the classroom that reminded me of myself, like these depressed souls, because I was like, if I can do it, you can do it too, right? Like people who've lost weight or accomplished anything, and you think to yourself, like, there's no chance in hell I thought I would ever accomplish that, so if I can do it, anyone can do it, right? And I was one of those people. I am one of those people. And I would work with these people who were like really depressed, and it would just kind of like suck the life out of me. But I loved the work. It would just take up a lot of my energy. And then a few years ago, I was coaching, and I suddenly realized I'm like, I don't have the capacity for that. I was responsible for like 100 people at a time, so they couldn't possibly give the energy to, you know, just working with those kind of people. But what I noticed is I started having this ability to recognize leadership in the room. Early on, like early onset leadership, like early onset Alzheimer's. I could see early onset leadership, and because I could recognize the same path that I had walked down towards my leadership, and I could see where they're going. They just haven't recognized it yet. And I realized that it had taken someone telling me that I was a leader for me to recognize that I was, and it took me like years to recognize that. So I was like, screw that. Like these people shouldn't have to wait years for someone to tell them. I'm going to tell them now. So I would go into the room and I would find these leaders, and I would find like 4 or 5 people that I really saw had like unique attributes from everybody else, and I would give them like the Midas touch. I'd be like, hey, you've got it, and let's work on this now. Let's push the stuff out of the way that's stopping you from seeing who you are. And what I noticed is as their layers would come off, they would provide value for the rest of the room. You know, like it's like a pyramid, like everything else. Starts here, trickles, 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 and suddenly like 100 people are being taken care of because I'm taking care of 5. That's an amazing thing. So I feel like that's what's happening with us right now is we've had these people just kind of tap us, right? Because we're around these great people who've accomplished amazing things, and we're seeing like, holy crap, we're providing these people an immense amount of value in their lives, and that allows you to be like, maybe I am, you know, maybe I can. And that, I think, just pushes your action. So now can you remind me of the question you asked me?
Yes, I said, what have you seen? So we're going to finally lead with a personal development product.
Right.
First time ever. What has shifted?
Yeah.
What has shifted for us that we, you know, have been dubbed Facebook guys and have played that role, and guys, we still love teaching that stuff. Like the reason we've had this month, aside from the mindset and the this and the that, is because we've just dialed in Facebook like never before, ever.
Yeah.
Truly, ever before.
Yeah.
But why now? Why are we coming out and saying, hey, we're ready to come out and not come out, but present the personal development side of our business to the world?
Yeah, I mean, in the most blatant, like blunt type of way, which is, I guess, what we're good at, is we grew a pair. Like, honestly, I mean, we've had this product on the shelf for 2 years, and the only people who have had access to it are people in our masterminds, because there's a context of coaching that we want them to have prior to joining our mastermind, because we know that the value we can provide people is far beyond just marketing, right? We use marketing as a segue. I mean, they get great marketing results, but we use marketing as a vehicle to allow them to see a lot of other stuff that's going on in their life that they're getting stopped by. You'll notice that when you break through in any area, it doesn't limit itself to that area. It spreads across your entire life. So even if you're just scoping in on marketing, but you're taking action in a way that you've never taken action before, suddenly, like, that action shows up with your relationships, it shows up in your business, it shows up with your friendships, it shows up in every area of your life, and even how you feel about yourself, clearly. So I think we gave it to enough people where we started seeing that the feedback on it had nothing to do with marketing. Suddenly people were like, I wish I would have seen this 10 years ago. My relationship with my spouse is completely different because of this. My relationship with my kids is completely different because of this. I'm getting results I've never gotten before. And for me, that was a huge wake-up call in terms of suddenly, like, wait a second, we do have that authority, and we know how to establish that authority quickly. I think going back a year or two when we had developed this product, I didn't believe that we could create authority quick enough, like just meeting somebody for the first time like this on a video, that me and you were at a level where we were communicating our authority in the field quick enough for a new person to see the type of value that we could provide on the back end. Today, I feel like we can. Even if the conversation doesn't start with personal development, the way that we are being with people and what I'm seeing them show up as, just as a function of those conversations, not necessarily even being coached, I was like, suddenly I'm like, man, we're doing this all over the place. We could be talking about marketing and people are having life transformations. So I woke up to the idea, I'm like, there's absolutely no reason for us not to play in that space. Maybe we're not a Tony Robbins, maybe we're not a Jack Canfield yet, but they also started being people who were nobodies and had to get on the map. And I'm a big believer, if you don't get started, then don't expect the results anyway. So I have no idea what's going to happen with this product. I'm sure, like, our current customers, a handful of them are going to buy it. We're going to get some good feedback. But what I'm really curious about more than anything is the people who've never been exposed to our brand, what's going to happen there. And furthermore, I would be much more proud of our brand if I don't mind being a marketer. I don't even mind being associated as a Facebook marketer, but I would want that to be secondary. Not you're a great marketer and you provide personal development. I want to be you provide amazing personal development and you're a great marketer would be my preference for our brand.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I just want to point out, like, I think we're sharing here our story. I hope what you're listening to is mapping this out on you, okay? Because there's a process we went through, and I just kind of want to talk about that a little bit. We're about to hit our 3-year anniversary, okay? Couple of things. One, our business today is 10 times better than we ever thought it would be in 3 years' time. We had a 5-year plan. We are crushing that 5-year plan, okay? 1. 2, our business looks nothing like what we wrote down when we first created SatoriPrime. Nothing.
Yeah.
I wish we kept that piece of paper because I would read it out loud to you and you all would laugh. So I want to say a few things, and I'm going to read this. I just did a podcast on this, so maybe you'll understand it. This was from a Jim Carrey commencement speech, and he was talking about how every one of us has a talent that it's our job to provide that talent to the world, and the way that you affect others is the most valuable currency you have. That's basically how you make money, right? And what he said that I absolutely loved, and I'm trying to find it here right now, is that he had a teacher back in the day who told him that when she prayed for something, she always promised that she would do something in return. So he went home, he was a kid, he asked for a bike, told whomever that he's going to do rosaries every single night, broke that promise, 2 weeks later got this bike, and ever since then, he knew that he could have anything he wanted in his life. And the takeaway is this: people are afraid to ask the universe for what they want. The key is to just ask the universe for what you want. Work your ass off for it. It's not like sit on top of a mountain going, and hope that it rains down on you. Literally work your ass, but then let go that it has to show up a certain way. Because if we were attached to our business, SatoriPrime, looking a very particular way, we wouldn't be sitting having this beer talk with you right now. Your job is not to figure out how this whole thing works or how it's supposed to show up. It's just to look for an open door and then walk through that open door. And what he said that I thought was absolutely brilliant is that not only, most people are like, oh, I missed my chance, I missed the door, blah, blah, blah. Here's the beauty about the universe. Doors are opening all the time.
Yeah.
And if you miss that one, then you'll find another one to walk into. So don't fret. Truly, like, I think what we've done better than most people, because we came from a personal development background, is two things. We have a very different conversation about fear, which I want us to get into in a minute. And I think we weren't attached to any way that things would look. We have a massive, massive commitment. And for those that have been with us for a long time, I think you're seeing probably more of that mission fulfilling. Our mission by 2020 is to impact 1 million people in the most life-altering positive way, like literally change 1 million people's lives. And we do that by breaking down the walls to what you believe is possible in your life.
Yep.
We achieve that by helping people find their passion, find their talent, unleash that talent, and build the freedom and life and business that they've always wanted. That's really all we've been doing.
And my personal hold on, my personal feeling from where we are right now is we're gonna have to stick another 0 on that number. I'm just because I finally have context for something. You know, you're talking about where you're saying, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you, like, when you get started, you have no context for anything. The fact that you think you can imagine what it's going to look like, I have a lot of context now, and I have no idea what it's going to look like 6 months from now.
Yeah.
So it's you're demeaning yourself by doing that. You're limiting yourself by doing that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that's a really good point, because if we had an attachment to the way things needed to look, we would be way smaller than we are today, because it takes taking the blinders off, and it takes surrounding yourself with amazing people and listening to their feedback, both good and bad. Both good and bad, right? We've been told plenty of times that we suck at this and we suck at that, and guess what? We worked way harder at having that work. But when someone that you respect and you surround yourself with much better people than you know, much smarter people than you think you are, and those people feed you back, everything inside of you. I remember when I read that, I was like, you know, that voice that comes up is, God, if you only knew, right? But you realize that there's a real impact there. Mm-hmm. And then that should feed you to be able to provide more of that to others. So if I can impart anything on everyone listening is, have a big-ass commitment, big-ass why, like something that lights you up every single day, that every conversation you have with people, every content you create is imbued with that passion to make a difference for people. Because I'm telling you right now, the world is shifting. People are done with bullshit. People are done with scammers and liars. And I'm just so proud of what we've done, because truly, for anyone that's known us for a long time, we are so committed to you and to your success, and we've made that our business focus forever. And that's what makes me the proudest. We always knew the money would come. Always. And we never focused on it. I think for so many people, and we've heard from people in like really high-end masterminds with, you know, really gifted marketers, etc., and they're like, they're still money-hungry douchebags, you know? They're just good at what they do, but they don't care about the person. And I think I'm so proud that we're hopefully, with your help, going to cause a serious revolution. Because when we train our apprentices and when we train people in our masterminds, we make sure that they're not about money. We make sure that they're about making a difference. We make sure that the content that they're creating is actually making a difference in the world and not just scamming people out of money. And so if we're just a drop in the bucket, but we create more leaders that can do that in a kind of pond, centrifugal circles, etc., then I think we've done our job. So
and I have no idea
that's
how we're
one.
going to do any of that.
What?
I said, and I have no idea how we're going to do any of that.
We have no idea how we're going to do any of it. Every day we're just.
And I don't care. I just know that we're going to do it our way. We're not going to follow the herd. It's never really been our style to follow the herd. I keep thinking to myself, I'm like, it's starting to come to that point where I'm sure we're going to land on a lot of people's desks and maps and stuff like that. And I think some of the people that I know at the top, they have their little syndicate and they want to leverage each other and do stuff like that. And I keep wondering to myself if like one of those guys comes calling, would I work with them? And what keeps coming up for me is that I wouldn't. I don't even want to be part of that. I have no interest. It's amazing to me that me and you, one of the things I watch people do in this industry is they become like groupies, like internet marketing guru groupies, right? Like they want to meet the people, they want to get connected to them, they want to like meet the rock star, and they get all like flustered when they're around them. Like I've seen it happen a lot of times. I'm like, really? That's what you're going for? I mean, like, that you just, basically what you're saying to yourself is, I don't have an issue with that you want to get after them or that you want to get connected with them. There's a lot of guys I want to get connected with too. But it's like people want to model these people so much that they want to lose themselves. Yeah. And what I always like about us, and it's just been our nature, like, thanks Mom and Dad for going against the grain about everything. We're like pretty against the grain. Like we don't like the herd and we want to do things our own way. But at the same time, I feel like that's what's going to serve us when you're talking about our mission in 2020. It's going to allow for that to come to fruition and for us to create something new because we're not looking at everybody else going, I want to do what they're doing. We're constantly looking for, like, how can we keep doing what we're doing,
Yeah.
But do it at that level too. And I really love that. I hope, anybody else who ends up watching this, it's my message to you too. Like, the biggest gift you're going to give yourself is to give yourself freedom to be who the fuck you are. Biggest freedom, biggest gift I've given myself in my entire life. It's going to be a long mission for me. Acceptance is something I'm going to work on for the rest of my life. There's parts of me I can't stand. There's parts of me I'm like, yes, thank God I have that. And I'll work on that for the rest of my life, right? But it's all about acceptance and surrender to those kind of things and just saying, fine, that's where I am right now. How can I do it better next time? Not about getting on yourself every time you react in a way that doesn't please you or that you meet somebody who doesn't please you or whatever it is. But if you can give yourself permission to be who you really are, that thing that, okay, I want to give you an example. Huge breakthrough in my life. That thing that when people tell you a compliment about you, you can't accept it? Isn't that always difficult? Like, it's like accepting a gift that you're not sure that you can take. You feel weird about it. Now, I invite you to look at the conversation in your mind when that's happening is somewhere along the lines or some version of, if you knew who I really was, you wouldn't be saying that. And because of that, you can't really hear what other people are saying about you. Now, other people might see you differently than you are. I often think that actually when I meet a stranger, I perk up my ears a little bit more when they tell me who I am because strangers don't have a lot of backlog on you. So the only feedback they can give you is based on the way that they feel when they're around you. It tends to be more accurate than people who know you for a long period of time and have all these stories and are ranting off their stories about you and stuff like that. Anyway, my point here is that you can't accept that because you haven't started sharing that part of yourself with people. I remember I used to not share my story about suicide and depression and anger and all these kind of things with people because my impression was if you knew that about me, not only would you not tell me what you just told me, which I kind of want to hear, right, if I'm being honest, but not only would you not tell me that, but you would, like, run away. Like, that would be the last conversation me and you were having. You're going to be like, oh, this guy is fucked up. Time to run for the hills, right? And I think everyone has that some version of that. Now, the irony is that when I started sharing that story, the exact opposite of what I thought would happen is what really happened, is that everybody came closer in. Everybody suddenly wanted to be around me. They wanted to be part of the conversation that I was. I was more integrous in their eyes. I had, like, nobility and wisdom suddenly in their eyes. Like, I had discovered something that other people hadn't. It was one of the most interesting experiments of my entire life. And to this day, I mean, I'm the first person I'll tell you the most messed up things about me from the moment you meet me, because what I see is that it creates connection. It allows for you to let down your guard so that you can experience who you are and share the parts of yourself that you never get to share. And if you've ever been around me, the creepiest thing is that people will share the weirdest crap with me, because that is who I am for people. I'm the space to be however the fuck you want to be. And honestly, for me, that's probably been the biggest gift of my entire life that I've given myself and been able to give other people.
Yeah. I mean, when you do something like that, you use one of the most beautiful things that a human can use, which is vulnerability. It's basically a complete let go. You completely let your freak flag fly, and you're like, this is who I am. Like me, don't like me, love me, don't love me, accept me, don't accept me. This is me.
Yeah, don't matter.
And you know what? I think it's always important to keep digging and keep being better than you were the day before. I'm all for that. But with that has to come love and self-acceptance. Because most people look for an external thing. Like, I need acceptance from this. I need agreement from them. I need approval from mommy and daddy. I need blah, 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 blah. When in fact, the only thing you actually need is your own self-acceptance. And when that happens, all that other stuff comes to be. I'll never forget, we have Russian immigrant parents. I was going to go to be an attorney, took the LSATs, had applications sent out, etc. Went and did the Landmark Forum. I think it's funny that my brother and my dad had done it before, and they were like, you're going to make a life-altering choice when you take the forum. And I thought they were talking about me breaking up with my girlfriend, and I was like, if I fucking break up with my girlfriend because of this course, I'm going to be so mad and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to kill them and all this stuff. And so I come home. Yeah, I come home and I'm like, I sit my parents down, right? And like Russian Jewish parents whose son has wanted to be an attorney since the age he was 12. And I'm about to tell him that I'm not going to law school anymore. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is going to be an all-out war in my house. And I say, listen, I looked at my life, and I realized that I'm living other people's wish for me. I'm not living my own life. I'm actually living into a world that others have kind of, not dragged me, but like, I heard so many people be like, oh, you'd be an amazing attorney, blah, 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 and I bought into it, right? And obviously, like, being an attorney is, quote-unquote, a good job. And I realized that I was doing it for others, not for me. And it was the first time ever at 21 years old in my entire life that I woke to the thought that I don't have to do things for others. I just have to do them for me. So I tell my parents this. In one line, I kind of tell them, like, this little thing. And both of them just look at me and go, okay. And in my head, I thought that I'm literally walking into, like, a war. And they're like, okay. And what I realized was, because I was so grounded in what it was that I wanted,
Yep.
there was no room for argument. It wasn't like, most parents, and I'm a parent of 2 young kids, so I haven't gotten to this stage yet, but most parents, what are they concerned with? Their kids' well-being, right? That their kids are safe, that their kids are well taken care of, etc. And most of the time when you're a child, and even into young adulthood, your parents still treat you like a baby. Why? Because they're still concerned for you all the time. But when you come from a place of just complete and utter understanding of who you are, and you make a statement, a very simple statement, me saying I'm not going to law school, I could have said that a year ago and it would have been a war. But I was so grounded. And people sense that. So again, I agree with guys so much. Like, when you finally get rid of all the fucking shit in the way of who you truly are, and you just be you, the life that you want, the dream life, the thing that you've been dreaming about all this time is there. I'm not saying it's easy to get there. I'm just saying, like, that's what your focus needs to be, not about doing more, working harder, figuring this out or that out. It is literally unlocking you it's almost like, you know, when you do that, you just burst, literally burst, and then you let so much light and energy in, and that obviously gets portrayed to everyone around you. They're impacted by it, and it's just like a magnet for goodness.
And I think, you know, doing that around people makes something possible for other people that they didn't know was possible for them, because, you know, people are limited by what they believe and also by what they see. Because if you're willing to believe something, you usually see it. But a lot of times people need to see in order to believe something. Just watching somebody do something like that usually sparks something in people. And it's funny you brought that up. And the first memory that popped into my head was starting this business. Because every other job I had gotten after college, outside of working with you at the bank, like all the jobs after that, when I was like didn't really know what I wanted to do for like about, you know, I don't know, 6 months there or whatever. Every job I went to go get, mom and dad were like, not having it. Like, this is not what you're gonna do. This is not for you. This is not, you know, like it was just all at war. And of course, you get so attached to everything, so it's like, you know, it becomes this like horrible back and forth. And I remember when I decided to get into the online industry, I didn't even know I was getting into the online industry. I didn't even know what the online industry was. I found a page, I was looking for something, it seemed kind of related to it, and I was like, I didn't know where else to get started, so I just went for it. But I remember a few months in, and I was doing it, and my shock that entire time was that mom and dad hadn't come to me one time, not once, to show their displeasure, to tell me that not to do it, to tell me that I was investing my money stupidly. And I know a lot of people have these businesses and they get started and friends and family look at them like they're insane. I had an insane belief in what I was doing. And I don't know why. Based on nothing. Based on no evidence. Based on no results. Based on nothing. Everything in the world was that this is bullshit and a scam if you looked online, right? What I was doing. But for whatever reason, for me, it aligned perfectly with my skill set, with what I wanted to do, with who I wanted to be for other people, with how I wanted to serve people. It was like I could just clearly see that if I could master this thing that was inside of me is going to go on the world, right? And I just knew it. I was like, if not this, then what else? And I've told this story before, but like I purposely, consciously put myself in mass amounts of debt when I started my business because I said to myself, there's nothing else I could go do. There's no job I could go take that would start me because I would have to start again at the bottom of the ladder. Like I, you know, lost basically all the momentum I had that would ever get me out of the debt that I just put myself in. The only solution was to make it big, and just have money be no longer an issue in my life, where I could super concentrate only on the things that would truly matter to me. And for me, it was like that context. I remember I could not believe that mom and dad didn't have anything to say about it. They were like the exact opposite. They were so supportive. It was insane to me. I was like, this is just insane. And I was like, and I felt exactly like Elon. I was so grounded. I so strongly believed and had faith. It was just so apparent to everybody else. And there's been a few times in my life where I could look at other things that happened. Like Landmark was one of those things for me. You know, that's why so many people I think went to go do it around me, is because they saw that faith I had and that belief in what I had done. But I can think of literally maybe like 2 or 3 moments in my entire life where I had a vehicle or a context for life that way, and I think that is critical. Critical. I mean, depending on what your goals are, right? If you're like, look, I just want to make 6 figures this year, I don't know if you need to push yourself to that level. But if you're like, I want to make a global impact, I want to make multiple millions of dollars this year, yeah, there's some groundwork you got to do to get there.
Yeah, I just want to say that as Guy's older brother, for a very, very long time, I was always kind of the lead, and Guy kind of followed into things, right? And I just want to give you like a personal impact, right? So Guy had that shift, the story that he just shared with you. Now, I had brought him into previous jobs, previous hobbies, previous everything. We'd both been out of this work. I was trying to build a medical consulting business. Guy's off doing this online marketing thing. And I saw a massive shift in him. Guy had no results when he approached me with this business. Nothing. What he had done is he actually helped me build a website, which was actually helping me get some results. And I kind of fell in love with marketing. But really, when Guy approached me and was like, look, would you consider joining me in this business? Part of me is like, what fucking business? Like, you have no business. But I'd never seen him work so hard at anything before in my life, ever. And I knew, just like he knew, that putting that much work, that much effort, that much faith in something was going to produce ridiculous results. Part of me, not knowing anything, I was like, you know what? If nothing else, to go on this ride with him, I have a feeling this is going to be a really interesting ride.
Yeah.
And it was a big reason why I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I hate what I'm doing right now anyway. Like, I think he's going places. And it was the first time I think ever that you really just took the reins and you let us. And I remember we had a conversation one time, and I was like, you're like, if I have to carry you on my back, we are going to make it.
Yeah, and I've never been like that about anything. Elon's dead on. Like, I always kind of lived in the shadow. We had a lot of conversations at Landmark too when we were in coaching together about, like, you know, dealing with that kind of stuff, stepping out of that shadow. It took me a really long time to even understand what that truly meant. I always felt a little bit held back. Elon would cast a really big shadow. He was like one of those, you know, A+ students, and like things just seemed to come easy, or at least from my context, easy to him. I don't know like how much work he put in. Obviously, I wasn't there. But suddenly, like, something hit, and it wasn't just me. You know, when I brought Elon in, he allowed it. You know, for the first time, he allowed me to lead, which was great because it empowered me. It also had me get a little bit give me another edge, because suddenly another person was relying on me. Also, Elon was a complete psychopath for ever joining me in the first place because of just the circumstances he had in his life. You know, he basically said, "I'm going to start a business with you," when he's dealing with home foreclosures, a new baby on the way, IRS on his ass, and it's like suddenly you need to work like to build a business. And for anybody who's ever done that before, the amount of effort that takes, you understand what I just said is so major. Even these 3 years, you know, all the things we've had to deal with, money being stolen from us, you know, getting scammed here, a lot of very expensive lessons, a lot of things when most people would be like, way beyond my ability to have a threshold of pain over here. I mean, you know, round of applause for Elon for everything he's had to deal with as a husband and as a father of now 2 kids through this entire process. But I don't think that we ever. It's amazing because you really bought into my vision that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, as long as we just kept freaking walking forward, no matter what happened. And most people don't have that capacity. It gets dark really quick on them. So again, you know, like, big ups to you for sticking with me, because there have been a lot of times you can be like, sorry man, I can't do this anymore, and I have to go do something else. And we've had a few situations that have come up that I could have taken Elon away from the business and had him put back in a traditional space, and even then he so bought into the vision that the resilience around it, right? Remember that? Like, some opportunities that came up, he still was like, I still prefer to be here no matter what they offer over there. And I had to, like, literally talk him into, like, no, if they give you an opportunity, like, you have to go for it. Like, you have to go for it. I'm like, I don't care if you put in an hour a day on the business. As long as I know you're present, like, I'll make it happen anyway.
So I just want to acknowledge at this point my incredible, amazing, supportive wife, Fanny. I don't think that any woman sane would rationally allow me to do what I did for as long as I did. Guys, what you have to understand is that for the first, I would almost say, 16 to 18 months, we didn't pull a penny out of the business.
Not one.
Right? Like, okay, so my house is being foreclosed on. Okay, my wife is an attorney, so obviously she had, like, a pretty decent income. We're starting to blow through her savings because you know, at first I was, like, living on welfare checks, and then that died, and now we have another kid on the way. I'm not bringing money in. She's the one carrying the family, and she still sees us. And now keep in mind, she has no fucking clue what this business is. And no matter how much we try to explain it, she still doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
What she understands is money's going out, money's not coming in, and she still let me do this. And so, like, to you, Fanny, if you ever listen to this, without you, I know I wouldn't be here. And the fact that I'm celebrating 3 years now with SatoriPrime is like, I don't know. It's absolutely beyond belief. And if you're a wife or a partner or whatever out there of someone that's going through this process, I want you to know that the best thing that you can provide them is your support and your love and your belief. And I've said this to my wife, like, the biggest shifts in our business have been when she believed that I can actually make this happen. Like, we sat, I think it was May, beginning of May, right, bro?
Yep.
And we sat, and I kind of like showed her our finances and all this stuff, and she's like, okay, here's what we need, X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. That created a game with Guy and I. That month, we blew it out of the water, and I looked at her, and I was like, are you kidding me? Literally within a week, we accomplished the goals that you set out for 3 months because you actually support me and, like, behind me 100%. Not that she wasn't before, but you know what I mean. So just to get to the life that you want, you have to be willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. And that means that your family and your support system has to buy into that. Now, I don't mean to go and hard sell them. That's a horrible approach. But if your actions and your belief are the things that speak to them, like, I didn't have to convince my wife. She saw the amount of work and effort that Guy and I were putting in, and that was infectious. And she knew that to live the life that we had dreamed of living, it's going to take that thing. Like, I've told her now, I love our business, and, you know, I'm obsessed with our business, and we're obviously very, you know, financially fine. But I told her by 35, I want to be at a point where I'm working 4-hour days, you know? And so if that means for the next 2 years, I will literally sprint my ass off and put in 14-hour days every single day, I will. Because that's my end result. So whatever it is that you freaking have to do to create that space, to make that happen, go out and do it.
Yep.
It is so freaking worth it. Sprint for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Most of you have had shitty jobs for 12, 15, 20 years. That job could disappear tomorrow because of a company downsize or some fucking redundant bullshit in the UK or whatever the hell they call it. Follow your heart, follow your passion, and work your fucking ass off to get it, and I promise you the results are amazing. So,
Period.
with that whole rant, cheers first of all.
Cheers, man.
Mazal tov.
Love the passion. Love the passion. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if
I want to ask you something. We spoke about this in an earlier podcast with Ryan, and he literally, Guy said this, and he was like, "You just blew my mind." And I don't know if we shared this with others. We may have, but whatever. I think it's just really brilliant. So we talked about letting go and, right, just having, accepting what is and just being committed, not attached. The other thing we spoke about is fear. So we have a really interesting view of fear. So why don't you share that with people? Because I think that insight alone can actually help people break through so many walls in their lives.
Yeah. And this is something, it's crazy that we got this as early on as we got it. I look at it now and I say how fortunate we were. I mean, this came out of a program that Elon and I took. I was 21, you were 23, right? Wisdom course, I believe.
Yeah.
And to even register for that course, I mean, I was a college student. I was broke. Elon had a 1995 Mark III Golf. It could be a Volkswagen Golf. And we sold the car, or Elon convinced mom and dad to sell the car, something. Sold that freaking car just to pay for the deposit to go take this very expensive program. It was a 10-month-long program. And the only thing that got me was he said that week 3, we will deal with your failure conversation. You will never look at failure the same way again. And I knew at that point in my life I was paralyzed by everything I was afraid of. If I was afraid, I wasn't going to do it. The girl was across the room, wasn't going to walk there. If it was a job, I remember getting on like phone interviews and making a mockery out of myself because of the fear of actually getting the job, and I would have to perform. And all this kind of stuff, like I had no faith in who I was whatsoever. And you're talking less than 10 years ago, that's who I was. So, you know, for those of you guys who know me today and you're like, how did this happen? I'm telling you right now, like I am all training. I'm like an athlete that just trained for a really long period of time. It just happened to be my mind, and I happened to like just trip over a wire, and when my face planted, it fell into a really good place. I don't know. I really don't know how all this happened. Like it's just kismet as far as I'm concerned. I feel like destiny led me here most of the time. But going back to the fear conversation, so most people, right, like if you think about the conversation in your mind, one of the things you're going to want to consider is perhaps that the mind is just a mechanism of the body. So if you believe in mind, body, soul, which I think everyone, at least at some level, believes in the soul, who you really are, you could say, is the soul, and then there's this mechanism, right, called the body and the mind. So it's distinct from who you are, but it's feeding you information at the same time. Like you get burned, there's feedback, right? Your brain is processing information, there's feedback, and it's feeding you feedback. So the thoughts that you're listening to in your brain, in your mind, are not yours. That's not you. That's a feedback mechanism trying to give you information about your surroundings all the time. And its function is to keep you alive. Your body's function is to keep you alive and resuscitated. Your mind's function is to keep the body keep going, right? So it's a survival mechanism. I'm not saying it's the only thing it does, but it's a survival mechanism at its base work, core work. So it's great, again, when the car is about to slam you in the face and you need to jump out of the way, or the stove is too hot and you got to lift your hand off of it because that's part of survival. But when the girl is across the room, when you really, really want to do that thing and you don't, and then that chatter comes up, that chatter that's really familiar to you, it's done it a million times before, and you don't take action, it's doing the same thing. It's trying to have you survive something that is not even putting your life at risk. Because whether a fear is imagined or real, to you, it's real. It seems real. So what I could tell you is I want you to look at moments in your life where you've been afraid, but you've taken action anyway. And you could say that courage is not the absence of fear, it's the ability to act in the face of it, right? So for those of you who have been courageous when you've been afraid, how have you felt at the end of it, right? Wasn't it almost a magical experience, empowering experience, an enlightening experience? You felt different. You were suddenly somehow changed by the experience. For some of you guys, it's been skydiving. For some of you, it was walking across the room to ask that girl out. It doesn't matter what it was for you. It's just that's all relativity, right? It doesn't matter though. So when we coach people, people ask me, well, how do I get happy? How do I live a life that's magical, that I feel great about myself, that I feel like I'm accomplishing stuff? And it's like, well, what do you feel like when you accomplish stuff that you're afraid of? Don't you experience all those things that we all want to experience all the time? So Elon and I figured that out at a pretty young age, and we realized, damn, we've had it wrong this whole time. All this time, here's fear, and we've been going, boop. But here's fear, and we decided that instead of being afraid of it and running this way, we're going to go this way towards it. In fact, we're going to chase it. So if it moves, we're going to chase after it and keep running after it, right? So here's fear now, and instead of running away, we actually redistinguish it as it's the universe telling us what's next. This is our guide. I have a fear guide. We look at animals all around the planet. You know, baby sea turtles who are born and run right into the ocean. Whales who haven't been back to their birthing ground in 10, 15 years and suddenly just make their way back exactly where they were with no GPS, right? How do they all do that? They're running on some kind of instinct. We call it like the magnetism of the planet that they're following, but it's the same thing. What if the magnetism of the planet is fear? And all we've done is fucked up the distinction and said, that's a scary thing, but it's not, right? And suddenly this beauty of humanity is on the other side of what you're afraid of. So my invitation to you is that the thing that you're afraid of the most is the thing you take action on first. It is literally how you can create your schedule. And that's what Elon and I look at. We're like, what are we afraid in business right now? What are we afraid of in relationships right now? And then the first thing we look at is how do we go and do that? And when we do that, that's where that juice comes from that you guys see a lot, is because we're in that state a lot. We've gotten so comfortable with being uncomfortable that we no longer realize that we're uncomfortable. And that's really what, right? Isn't that it doesn't case? I don't even feel uncomfortable anymore. But It's like, I know there's uncomfortability all the time. I just don't even think of it that way. I go, oh, here's this thing now, and then we deal with it. And here's this thing now, and then we deal with it. But it's always with power because I've built up a muscle so much that when I do that, I have so much faith that I'll get to the other side, that I'm not stopped by being when I'm on the other when I'm on before I've gotten to that side. And it's taken years to develop that pattern. Years to develop that fucking pattern. But when you get it, good damn, it's worth the entire ride. Yeah.
Monks for years, and I just listened to a TED Talk of one. Monks for years. What again?
I said, you're drunk.
Monks for years. 12%er, baby. Monks for years work on a mind training. Everything in life is temporal, right? So people are so afraid of fear and so afraid to go after those things because there's a pain associated with it. There's a body sensation associated. There's a paralyzation associated with it. For monks, they're like on a completely different end of the spectrum. They've actually put these guys in fMRI machines to see their brain, and they'll sound like a bomb just went off. Their body won't even flinch. Like the most basic human knee-jerk reaction is like protect myself. Their body won't flinch. Why? Because they know that everything is fleeting. The analogy used I thought was so beautiful is like if you can have everything that worries you and enlivens you be like a bird flying through the sky is the analogy of how that thought should come across your mind, then you know you've gotten to a great place. And so the reason I think we've gotten so good at being uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, because we just know it's going to lead to the next thing. It's just like such a fluid thing. It's like we'll just deal with this as a passing thing to get to where we know we got to get to. Again, it all goes back, I think, to the mission, to the 2020 goal, to the making a difference for other people, to the not giving a shit about money, but actually being about making a difference, a huge global impact in this world. All of this minutia, you know, like when I'm sick, Jameson actually wrote something like this today. He said, you know, I'm sick, I feel crappy, still came to work, still busted my ass, still closed deals, etc. Why? His game is bigger than himself.
Yep.
We have thousands of entrepreneurs around the world that count on us. We run probably 4 or 5 masterminds a week, okay? If Guy or I have a sore throat or feel shitty or whatever the hell it is, there's no option to not show up. People count on us. You know my podcast that comes out on Mondays and Thursdays? People count on that showing up Monday and Thursday. If I wake up Sunday and I'm like, I don't feel like launching this podcast, that's not an option. Create a context in your life. Create a playground in your life where there is no opening for your feeling to dictate how you live your life.
Yeah, I want to interject over here, right? Because we talked about this earlier today too, and I want to bring it up again. I think it's so critical with what you just said, is that most people are trying to solve their problems. They want to get rid of all their problems. Guys, if you solved all your problems, you're going to be so fucking bored, you're going to want to be in the casket. Stop trying to solve all your fucking problems. You're not going to have a life worth living. What you really want to seek is stop trying to solve the problems. Just create one big problem that's big enough for you to live for, that you could spend your entire life trying to figure out how to solve that problem. World hunger, transformation of the planet, sustainability. These are problems worth your life. Communication, connection, healthy relationships, right? All these things the things that when we look at other people and they're doing them, you watch these YouTube videos and you're so inspired. Why are you inspired? Because you see a problem that you connect with that's so big, you think to yourself, I would love to be part of that. Yeah. Even if there's no solution, you have no idea what that would look like. That's a problem worth your life. That's what actually marketing allows you to access, is to communicate to people, right? If you look at marketing, it's just a communication device. Sure, people use it to make money because money is important in this game that we're playing right now. But it might not be down the road. But communication tools will always exist. You know, when they launch apps, do you know there are 2 major apps that sell in every store? It's got like 85% market share. Number 1 is games, because everyone likes playing games. Business is a game too. Making money is a game too. We all love games. From the moment you're a child, what do you want to do? Play, right? When you get an adult, the game just become way too fucking serious. Number two is communication devices. Voxer, Snapchat, WhatsApp, all these things, Instagram, these are all communication devices. Why is it that they're the ones that get bought out for billions of dollars? All humans care about is connection and connection. Like, connection and communication, sorry. That's all we
Connection
care
and
about.
connection.
Yeah, we care just connecting and really fucking connecting. Like, you know, so like, why is that? That's 85% of the things in the App Store that gets downloaded. So just think about these kind of things, guys, and that's why marketing is the most critical skill. I don't care what business you go and decide to start tomorrow. If you have no marketing know-how, you are flying blind. You're like a Jamaican who's high going, today, people, we're going to fly the plane backwards because I don't give a fucking shit. That's pretty much how your business is going to go, right? So, like, take off the blinders. It's a critical skill. I don't care what you do with it. Just gain it. Gain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm on my last sips here.
Same.
Same. Okay. So let's close with a couple of things here. One, I just want to give us a big Mazal Tov. 3 years, big fucking deal in an industry that most people bow out in about 6 months.
Yeah.
First, cheers to that.
So far, so good.
2, my toast to everyone else. I hope that this next year has you find your passion. I hope that this next year has you unlock your light and share that with the world. And I hope that we get to see that journey. Because for me, honestly, that's the greatest thing in the world. So if you found any of this insightful and you want to connect with us in any given way, the best way to do that is head over to SatoriPrime.com. It's SatoriPrime, Prime.com, and connect with us. Let us know how we can help you, whether it's, you know, Facebook marketing, mindset training, launching a product, launching a service. Our mission is to impact your life in a positive way, and we will do that and find a way to do that in any way we can. So that's my hope and wish for all of you. Bro, anything?
Always enjoy these beer talks, even when I'm drinking scotch. I'm a little bit buzzed, not going to lie, kind of an empty stomach going
Same
into
here.
this whole shenanigans. Guys, you know, why I like this context for us, at least, is I feel like this is where we get to actually be our most authentic, true selves. You know, show up. We don't have to be the guru. We don't have to be your marketing expert. I love being all those things, don't get me wrong, but we just get to be here and show you this is really our lives. Like, when we get together at a bar and we sit around, the conversation's not that much different than this. And I love that. One of my favorite lines of all time is Eleanor Roosevelt's line, small minds talk about people, average minds talk about events, great minds talk about ideas. I'd like to think of my mind as a great mind. I like to think of Elon's mind as a great mind. The people around me share great minds. I think it's really, really important that you look in your life and you see where you're spending your time, with who you're spending your time, and does that align truly with what your heart's desire is, even if it's a selfish one. Because I could tell you that selflessness in itself is a selfish thing because of what you get back for being selfless, but it's much more fulfilling to be selfless in itself. And if that's what fills you up, so be it. So look for ways to provide that in some way for people, and just watch the kind of magic that happens in your life when you are.
Yeah, and guys, if you want to upgrade your conversation and your network, and you feel like Satori Prime is a company, or, you know, we're the kind of guys that you want to surround yourself with, then I'll leave an application on this page. Just click on the button on this page, fill out an application, and see if working with us is a right fit for you. I'm going to tell you up front, we are very, very selective with who we work with. So you know, we're looking for a certain type of person, but if you feel like you're that kind of person and you feel like you would grow from these kind of conversations, whether in life or business, then just click that link and fill the application, and we'll get on the phone if you're fit and have that conversation. So with that, bro, I love you very, very much. Can't wait till you're here. I think in less than a month,
Yep.
we'll probably do a few of these live
Mm-hmm.
and more professional-like.
Yep.
And yeah, let's have the next 3 years be 4 times as good as these 3 years.
4 times. That's it. You're playing small, man. All right,
All
brother.
right, Bresky.
Pleasure as always. Talk to you soon. Bye. Love you.